Now, in this video, we will going to discuss about what are the steps involved in the product design process. The first step is the concept generation. The concept behind the product design is developed based on the ideas and requirements of the product concluded from the customers and potential market. So that means whatever the information on the ideas which are on the requirements given by the customer and also on the market survey, based on the market survey, and that is the potential market. So based on that, they will going to develop the concept generation. And then the point number 2 is different concepts related to the product shape, size, functional requirements, and other characteristics are developed. So why, once we have the product shape and size, what is the requirement of the functional requirement? So this is a particular phase what it is being included in the product design process. So when you are going for the manufacturing of the product, there may be some deviations in the size, that means from the dimensional requirement. Suppose if some dimensional requirements goes beyond the tolerance whatever it is given in the drawing, then it is practically it is impossible to use because it is not as per the dimensional requirement. But in such a cases, the functional requirement will play a major role. So that means if the part is not through with the dimensional requirement, but still the company will going to prefer that particular product if it satisfies the requirement of the functional. If the functional requirement is possible, then the product will going to be accepted, even though there may be a slight variation in the dimensional accuracy. So that is the reason why the functional requirements plays a very major role. The idea required to develop a concept is usually tied with R&D team and lies out of scope of the product designer. So the idea of concept generation, which usually will be linked with the R&D department or a research and development team, and lies out the scope for the product designer. So next step or then second step is product or the concept screening. Once a suitable number of concepts have been generated, it is necessary to choose the design most suitable to fulfill the product requirements set out. So that means once you have the concept generation wherein you will going to develop or you are going to procure lot of suitable number of concepts, there will be more number of concepts will going to be generated by discussing with the customers and also in the potential market. And once you do that, so there must be a concept screening. So that means you should be you cannot take all the requirements or all the concept generations you cannot implement on the product. So you have to take the one which will going to be helpful to develop that particular product. So the product design specification should be used as the basis of any decision being made. The chosen concept will be developed in detail. So we cannot incorporate all the requirements. So to decide which one to be selected, so we have to go for the product design specification. So what the customer has given the product design specification, according to that you have to choose the concept. And once you choose that particular concept, then based on that concept you will be going to develop in detail. So then comes the next step, the feasibility study. Conducting a feasibility study of the concept helps to have a closer look of all details of the product design. Suppose once you screen the concept, once we start developing in detail, then we will come to whether it is feasible. So whether whatever we are trying to develop the product, whether we are going to have a feasibility or not, we have to have a closer look of all details of the product design. Once the product design has been completed, so before actually going for the detailed design of the product, so we should have to go in minute details whether those things can be incorporated in our product, because we need to study the feasibility. But the feasibility here we are talking about from both from the technical point of view, but also from the point of view of economics. This is in turn helps to transform the product concept into a product layout that defines various subsystems and functional components. So that means once you have to have a feasibility study, so we are looking into a interior details of the product design. Once you go for the interior product detail design, then automatically you will be able to get the concept of product layout. So what are all the process involved, how we can be able to manufacture, all those things which can be, we're going to have a roadmap. So that will itself will going to become a product layout that defines various subsystems and functional components. Then comes the next step, which is the preliminary design. The product layout developed in the various stage is transformed into a detailed design with all the dimensions and specifications necessary to make the design specified on a detailed drawing of the design. So once the product layout developed in the previous stage is transformed into detailed designing with all the dimensions and specifications necessary. So we need to give all the dimensions for the individual product necessary to make the design specified on a detailed drawing of the design. So that means you should have all the detailed drawing. So what does it mean? Detailed drawing means we should have the dimensional requirement, you should give the tolerances which is required, and then we have to define the process, what should be the process to be adopted in while developing the design, while going for the manufacturing, all those things for the individual parts. So that is where it is important. Once the product means it is a set of individual parts put together to develop the product. So in such cases, we are going to have the detailed drawing. Information related to selection of materials, size and shape, definition of geometry, details regarding assembly of components, and other sequence of activities are developed. So that is what we use it in bill of materials. What we call in the bill of materials, we give the material specification, and then once they give the material specifications, then we will going to give what is the number of quantity you want, and what is the types of hardness which is required, all those things which will going to be given in that. So something similar to that here also, the size and shape is defined, definition of geometry is defined, details regarding the assembly of components, on what it will going to be get assembled, and other sequence of activities are developed. Then the step number 5, design evaluation and improvement. There is a need to verify in detail the degree to which the proposed design matches the design specification. So it is not there in itself. Once we develop the design or it is there, it won't end. So there we need to evaluate whether whatever the design we have done, whether we are going to matches the design specification. We need to analyze it. And if there is if there is any problem, then you have to try to improve it. Suppose if you have designed something in this particular product layout, then there you might have developed some hindrances, but still we'll go ahead with the manufacturing of that product. But later on, once we are going to get a reorder, then we can think of making some improvement. You can think of that improvement there. And here also, if it is the time is not consumed, then the time is sufficient, time is there, then we can think of the improvement. There are three techniques which can be useful in design evaluation and improvement. One, it is quality function development matrices, QFD, value engineering, and Taguchi methods. So these are the different design evaluation and improvement. So quality function development, as the name itself indicates, which is on quality and the functions. And value engineering, fine, it depends on the value of the product. And what is this Taguchi method? The Taguchi method is the one which will going to be used on the based on the analysis of variance. And the main advantage of this Taguchi is we can optimize the requirement. We can, what is the optimization? The best quality standards we can achieve by using this Taguchi method. So without actually going for the manufacturing, you can analyze all these things by applying the Taguchi technique, and so that we will going to get the optimized way of developing the product. So that is the advantage of using this Taguchi method. Then the step number 6, building prototype. The prototype of the improved design is created for testing and refining the functionality of the design. Identifying any flaws at this stage helps to rectify them and eliminate the quality compromising elements from the design. So once you have the building prototype, of course, that is been done by using the CAD models. So the CAD models, what we are talking about is the solid modeling. Whatever the solid modeling packages which is readily available today, we have to undergo the training, and we have to have the best application, and we have to be thorough with the software. So once you have the thorough with the software, we can use those software to build the prototype. The software can be a ProE or a NXCAD or any modeling package, like we can have Unigraphics, and all those software, CATIA, all those softwares can be used to build a prototype. And when you are trying to functionality in the design, when we are refining the functionality of the design, and once you try to do the analysis, and if you do the analysis by using any analysis packages, if you are finding out any flaws, so we can rectify at this stage and eliminate them to get the good quality compromising elements from the design. Next is executing the final design. The final design consisting of detailed drawings and specifications of the new product to be created. The accompanying process plans include work table instructions for manufacture, including necessary equipments and tooling, component source job descriptions, workstations, programs for computer controlled machines, assembly sequences, etc. So what is this accompanying process plans include? Work table instructions for manufacture. So that means we need to plan the product flow in the layout. So that means this product on which day we need to load on which machine, and once you want to load it on that particular machine, for that machine whether the tooling required to manufacture that component it is available or not, component sources job description, workstations, and then we have the programs or computer controlled machines. So then whether a fixture is required to hold that particular component, if it is there, we need to design it and we need to manufacture. And once you do that, we have to have, is there any programs are involved to be done? So we have to give the instructions for the programmers to plan it and program, so that the component, when the product which is loaded on that particular day, the program should be readily available. And once the product has been completed, then it comes to the assembly, then it goes to the sequence of assembly sequences. All those things which can be planned in before well in advance. So this is what is the process plan for that particular product. So all the requirements, whatever all the things which are required, which has been well been planned, and start executing the moment when the product comes to the shop floor. So these are all the main steps involved in the product design process. In our next video, we will going to discuss about organization and decomposition in the product design. Thank you.